Hey, hey, hey. This is Urban Politics, and I'm your humble host, Phys Ed Music. Thank you for joining me on this Sunday afternoon. Let's get right into it like a car and drive. There's all types of tasty politics to sink our teeth into. Check it out. Um, the justice for the J6 rally was held at the U.S. Capitol on Saturday. That was yesterday. There was a small crowd. Trump said it was set up to only make him and the rest of the GOP look bad. That's why he said he was staying as far away from it as he could. Right-wing groups like the Proud Boys, the Oath Keepers, and Three Percenters are all charged with storming the Capitol. Four people died on January 6th. That's something you have to keep in mind. A lot of times you'll see a lot of people on the right want to belittle this day. A lot of conservatives that I talk to are like, well, that day wasn't really that big a deal. Sure, some poop got smeared inside the Capitol. Sure, and then they always bring up one death. The only death they want to talk about is the young lady who was killed by the Capitol police officer because she was trying to breach the Capitol with a mob, a violent mob, and he did his job, and had to use his sidearm to unfortunately shoot the young lady. But that's the only death that they bring up, because that's the one Tucker Carlson wanted to talk about, saying that usually in this country when people shoot people, they're prosecuted and they go to jail. Well, not when it's in the scope of their duty, which is what you all on the right are always talking about, how, oh yeah, such and such wouldn't have been shot if they just complied. Well, if she had just complied, she wouldn't have got shot. In this case, that's real spit, you know what I'm saying? In some of those other cases, it's just a right-wing talking point, but there's that. So there's that. Like I said, on this day, they always want to belittle the deaths and say not too much came of it or whatever, but let's look at really all the deaths that came behind January 6th. 4 people died on January 6th. 1 fatally shot by police and 3 from medical emergencies. 1 police officer who had been attacked died the day after. 4 officers who helped defend the Capitol later committed suicide. 50 people have pled guilty, with 9 admitting to committing felonies, and 75 are still in custody. So this is a big deal right here, okay? This is an extensive case. That day wasn't something that you can just sweep under the rug, even though the likes of Jim Jordan and Kevin McCarthy, they would like nothing better than to sweep this under the rug and act like it didn't happen. They're not going to be able to do that. This January 6th commission is going to get to the bottom of what went down that day. But lo and behold, this was an incident. This was something that needs to be investigated and reviewed. And they obviously was on that, making sure that it didn't happen again, because that rally yesterday, nothing eventful happened at all. I heard there was maybe 1 or 2 arrests or something, like maybe 4 arrests. They found a guy with a handgun or something, but they were saying they weren't even necessarily sure that he was there for the rally or whatnot, and a bunch of stuff. But really, you know what I'm saying, a lot of those people, they stayed as far as they could away from that rally because they already knew it had been bad news. And to show up there is kind of admitting guilt, isn't it? It's kind of saying, yeah, I was one of the people who, supports, the riot at the Capitol. Please come and arrest me too. Because like I mentioned, all the numbers of Americans who are already in a world of trouble behind their involvement in the events that went down January 6th. So there's that. Moving on, I wanted to talk about social media. And I always talk about, too, why are we exposing our children to social media? See what I'm saying? 32% of teenage girls said that when they felt bad about their bodies, Instagram made them feel worse. An Instagram study from 2019 found that teens blame Instagram for their anxiety and depression. Well, duh. You know what I'm saying? It's hard enough to be a teenager, okay? And when you're a teenager, you're already anxious about everything. You're already depressed about everything. When you add social media to the mix, it was hard enough when I was 16, 17, 18. I'm so glad that the internet was not a thing when I was a teenager. Because who knows where my psyche would be at these days if it were. I mean, man, that internet, it really just adds injury to insult when it comes to these kids, So, yeah, these numbers didn't surprise me at all. 6% of teenage suicides can be tracked back to Instagram. Once again, why are we exposing our children to social media? 6% of teen suicides can be tracked back to Instagram. Now, a lot of you might say 6%, come on, what is that? It's not like 60% or 40%, but I would venture to say any percent of teenage suicide being able to be linked to Instagram tells me I'm cutting that Instagram off if I got a teenager, or at least greatly limiting it, because that is ridiculous to think that we have young people out here, teenagers, who are killing themselves because of something they saw on social media, because of cyberbullying, because of body images that they're seeing on social media. That is garbage. So us as adults, us as guardians, we got to be monitoring this stuff right here. So these are some troubling numbers. 32% of teenage girls. Think about that. First of all, teenage girls, they going through enough. Now they need Instagram telling them about how their bodies aren't good enough or whatnot. It's ridiculous. So, you know what? And really, I would say that Zuckerberg and some of these other cats who control all this stuff, this social media, this Facebook, all this garbage that we all ingest, do something about that. These reports right here came from Instagram. These were internal reports that they ran, and they found these things out. As a matter of fact, I think this report was done in 2019, but then a memo was found in 2020 that referred to this. So in 2019, they knew that teens blamed Instagram for anxiety and depression. They knew that in 2019. Here it is, 2021, business as usual, right? They still doing the same thing they've always done. They don't have any safeguards in there for the kids. They're not going to have any safeguards for the kids. They don't care about the kids. They care about making money. So I tell people all the time, if you want your kids to be protected, you better be protecting them. If you want your kids to know something, you better be telling it to them. Please do not expect your kids to go to anybody else's school or anything and get an education. You need to be educating them on what you want them to know. And number one, they need to know that this social media stuff is garbage. Okay? Nothing to be putting your heart and mind into. Okay? This is entertainment purposes only. You know, that's all the internet is really good for. Staying in touch with family and friends, you know, that you grew up with in high school and stuff like that. And that's about it. You know, I would even say stay away from that WebMD. Doctors say that's the worst thing, is people diagnosing themselves at home and then they come in all frazzled and scared about something they don't even have. You know, because they reading it wrong because they're not a doctor. They just looking at symptoms. See what I'm saying? So the internet, a lot of times, it's a double-edged sword, but a lot of times it can be worse than it's worth. You know, so these are some numbers we need to pay attention to. We need to watch our young women, because obviously they're ingesting a lot of this Instagram and they're taking it to heart. I'm not going to lie. Come on, some of those filters, the thirst traps, you've seen them. We all have fallen victim to some of that stuff. You know, just seeing people living these amazing lives on Instagram. And none of that's real. And none of it's true. It's all fake. And even knowing that, a piece of you is still jealous. A piece of you is still like, man, they have the best life on the planet. I would love to be living like this person. And I guarantee you, their life is not half as good as they're portraying it on Instagram, because it's all about the likes and the views, right? Anyway, moving on. Let's talk about a CNN poll that found that 59% of GOP voters said that it was somewhat or very important to believe that Trump won the 2020 election in order to identify as a member of the Republican Party. Let me read that one more time for those people in the back who may not have been paying attention. A CNN poll found that 59%, okay, that's a plurality of members of the GOP, GOP voters, said that it is somewhat or very important to believe that Trump won the 2020 election in order to identify as a member of the Republican Party. Why is that a problem? So you have to believe the big lie in order to be a Republican? Okay, there was always a lot of litmus tests to be a Republican or a conservative, right? But it used to be things like, do you believe in small government? Do you believe in limited government? Do you believe in letting the free market conduct itself? You know, do you believe in capitalism? Things like that. Now it's this crap. You know, basically, do you believe that Trump had the 2020 election stole from him? What does that have to do with the conservative platform, with the Republican platform at all? Nothing. You know, they have let themselves become an extreme cult of personality, and the personality that they're the cult of is garbage. It's a horrible personality. It's a horrible person. So it's redunculous is what it is. I really don't know sometimes what's going on with the GOP. And I'm not gonna lie, I've never in my life been a Republican or thought that I would even vote Republican. I've back in the day, I've billed myself as a card-carrying Democrat. These days, I'm independent because I would vote for a Republican if they were talking the talk, walking the walk, had some policies that I dug, thought helped me or helped my community. Sure, I'd vote for a Republican if they had those things, right? But so that'll say that makes me an independent because I could actually imagine in some crazy world where a Republican had all that stuff going on where maybe I would vote for him or her, right? But this is the thing right here. You know what I'm saying? The GOP, this is their problem, right? If that's the litmus test, not all those other things, but do you believe that the election was stolen from Trump? Well, come on. I mean, if you are a person of conscious and independent and sober thought, you already know. Even Trump's Justice Department said that this was the safest election that we've had on record. So you'd have to be delusional or an idiot who's just going along with what people want you to say, yeah, I believe that the 2020 election was stolen. Now, we're even going to talk about Larry Elder, and some other Republicans. But before I even talk about him, when he had an interview, that's what he kept telling the guy. The guy was like, can you say that you'll accept the results, of this recall that he was involved with Gavin Newsom? And he was going to say, well, I think we should all be dedicated to voter integrity. He couldn't just say, yeah, I'll accept the results of it. Because now that's the real litmus test of the new GOP. That's the new thing in the GOP. Any contest, any vote that they have, if they don't win, then it was rigged. Then voting is rigged. Really? Since you didn't win, then it can't be right. Then the vote must be rigged. Nah, maybe you just suck. Okay? Maybe you're just unpopular. Like your boy Trump, he was unpopular. That's why he lost. Okay? Did a lot of people come out to vote for Joe Biden? Of course they did. Of course they did. Obviously more people than have voted on record in history. But a piece of that was because Trump sucked so bad and they wanted him gone. So the GOP, they need to get hip to that, okay? Nobody is stealing elections from y'all. You all are unpopular. People do not like your policies. People do not like your views, okay? A lot of them are racist and people can see that. Ergo, they don't dig them. Ergo, they don't vote for them. Ergo, you're unpopular. Has nothing to do with people stealing a vote from you. Has everything to do with you, or with you all refusing to see what's right in front of your face because you can't deal with it. But you need to raise your hands in the air and receive it because that's what's up. You're unpopular. People do not like you. People do not like the GOP. People do not like Mitch McConnell. People do not like Ted Cruz. People in your caucus don't like Ted Cruz. So come on now. Y'all know what's up with that. I'm sick of hearing about this election fraud. Ain't no election fraud. Nobody likes the GOP. Okay? And when y'all win things, it's because y'all steal them. And y'all want to play this dirty pool that you play all the time. Anyway, moving on. Let's talk about Mr. Newsom and how he won that recall. Recall was led by the GOP. 60% of people had said that it shouldn't even happen. 60% of people in California would say there shouldn't even be a recall. But whatever, they did it. There was 47 people on the ballot. And all that lets you know is that I guess most people supported Gavin Newsom and the ones who didn't were running against him. So that's what's up, because 47 people on the ballot, that's ridiculous. And then Caitlyn Jenner, she was one of the people on the ballot. That's also ridiculous for a whole list of other reasons. So there's that. Now talking about this self-hating Negro, Larry Elder, who ran against him, claims it was rigged, of course. That's what this guy ran as on the Republican side. He's a conservative talk show host, so he's a conservative. So, of course, he claims that it was rigged and it was stolen from him because everybody loves you, Mr. Elder, especially when you run around and say things like he was on the Candace Owens show, right? And this guy says that slave owners are owed reparations. Since slavery was legal and slaves were legal property, was taken from the slave owners, they're due reparations as well. So that's what he was saying on the show. Like, do people really want to get into that conversation because they're due reparations? In a lot of instances, slave owners did get reparations. We still haven't gotten reparations. Slave owners have gotten reparations. I've talked about that on this show. So obviously that guy doesn't know this history, or chose to not talk about it because he does know it, but it didn't go towards his point or help his point that he was trying to make, which, as we see now, is no point at all. This guy, he was on the right show, wasn't he? He was right there with Candace Owens, another self-hating Negro. And I don't know what it is about these people. Well, I just said it. They hate themselves. Ergo, they say stupid stuff like that. How about we get reparations for us first? Or actually at all. The slave owners don't deserve no reparations because what they did was immoral. Who cares whether it was illegal or not? It was immoral, okay? It was against the laws of humanity. Who sits here and makes a case for, well, slavery was legal at the time? And who cares? It was, so what, man-made laws had made it legal at the time? Does that mean that it wasn't morally reprehensible? No, it does not. And for you to sit there and be a person of African-American descent, be a person of black skin, and sit there and say something like that, well, that's real stupid. And that is the reason why I refer to him and Miss Owens as a couple of self-hating Negroes. Obviously, they look up every day in the mirror and they hate their black skin. So, but really, this guy, Larry Elder, running against Mr. Newsom, it helped Mr. Newsom out because that guy was so egregious. Ain't nobody want that idiot. So they said that Gavin probably got a lot more votes because that doofus was running against him and had a lot of GOP money. So he was actually, I think, number 2 in that race. But like I said, 60% of Californians said it shouldn't even happen anyway. So there's that. And that's the GOP, trying to run things, trying to throw money at things and change things, but they weren't able to do it. Thank goodness for that. Moving on, I want to talk about Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger, 2 very outspoken critics of the former president, right? Both voted to impeach Trump behind his involvement in January 6th. That was huge. There were 2 people who, there were other Republicans, but they were 2 of the most prominent Republicans who had voted to impeach him after his involvement, with the things that went down January 6th with people storming the Capitol. There are other conservatives who do not support Trump, and they're using these 2 as political cover, of course, because they're scared. They don't necessarily want to come out, and have other Republicans looking at them crazy the way that they're looking at Adam Kinzinger and looking at Liz Cheney crazy. These 2 are built for the hustle. They obviously can take it. They are taking it. But there are some perks to taking it. Halfway through 2021, Liz Cheney has already brought in $3.5 million. So see, there you go. Having a backbone, going against a racist, misogynist, abysmal president named Donald Trump has its perks, doesn't it? $3.5 million that this lady has brought in. Adam Kinzinger, they said after his support of the second Trump impeachment, because he voted twice to impeach Trump, but after his vote of the second impeachment, he's brought in $1.1 million, which is a lot of money for him. $1.1 million is a lot of money. I don't care who you are. That ain't nothing to sneeze at. If somebody came to your door right now with $1.1 million, you would not turn it down. See what I'm saying? So that's great money, and this is some rewards that they've gotten for going against Trump, which actually should be a no-brainer. On paper, if someone told you they were going against this guy and all that, and they read all the things I just just said to you about the man, they'd be like, well, of course we're against this guy. This would be easy to be against this guy. But in this party, having a backbone is not popular in the Republican Party right now. So hats off to these 2 for having that backbone, but it looks like they're being a little well rewarded for it because they're getting a little money in their coffers. And every politician loves that because they use that money as they see fit. It's supposed to be for campaign stuff and, stuff to secure their position. But I guess that also looks a lot of different ways too. A long story made short, always good to have more money than less money, right? So they always love when people are making it rain on their campaigns. And if it happens because they're going against Lord King Trump, so be it, So there's that. Moving on, Trump suing Facebook Twitter, Google. I talked about this before, but I want to talk about it a little bit more just because it's still in the news. And the First Amendment doesn't apply to private companies. So they're well within their rights to censor whomever they want to. And that's what it is. Facebook, Twitter, Google, all of these are private companies. They're owned by individuals. Those individuals can do whatever they want with their babies. These companies are their babies. These social outlets are their babies. They can do whatever they want to with their child, right? All social sites free so that they can retain control. I've said that ad nauseum on this show. I will say that till the day I die. All of these sites will remain free. Why? Because as long as it's free, I'm giving you a service, right? But I'm giving it to you. It's still mine. I retain ownership. I'm just letting you use it. Facebook, Twitter, Google, you just use these things, right? You don't own them. You haven't bought anything. You haven't given any money to anybody at Google. You didn't pay for your Facebook page. You didn't pay for your Twitter handle. Me neither. And that's the way they keep it, because that way then they control it. At the end of the day, if anything happens, we can kick you off of our platform because it's our thing that we let you take part in for free because we're nice people. Not really. We're selling your information to the highest bidder all the time. But anyway, don't think about that. Think about how you get to share pictures of your son dancing to funny little music. Anyway, moving on. This whole thing for Adam Kinzinger and all these other Republicans, it's a publicity stunt. It's a fundraising device, and they have raised some money on this. Their constituents are stupid and don't really know that there's no way on God's green earth that they can sue any of these entities and get a dime. They're not going to stop them from being able to subpoena their phone records, so everything that they said to Mr. Donald Trump is going to be public information. You know, everything they said during the January 6th riots and all that other stuff, that's what they're trying to hide. They're not going to be able to hide it. When those phone records are subpoenaed, there's nothing that you legally can do about that. That is what it is. They want to play it out in the court of public opinion. When they had that little press conference and they were talking about how a lot of these social media sites had overstepped their bounds and all this other stuff, they got some applause. So that's what it is. They're trying to play it out in the court of, public opinion. Try and get the public or regular people to, come down on these entities. But guess what? Even in the end of the day, how about this? You're not going to get people to go against Facebook because people love Facebook. Once again, they're on there trading pictures of their kids and all their other goofy madness. So they're not going to go against Facebook or Google or any of that stuff. But even if they did, it still wouldn't make a difference because legally there is no recourse. Once again, these are private entities and they can do what they DAMN will please with their information and their materials, which you give them for free, right? So there's that. It's also an attack on so-called cancel culture. I get sick of hearing that term. Cancel culture ain't nothing but comeuppance. Now, cancel culture, I guess, you know what I'm saying? A lot of times people say and do things that you and I might not think are that bad, but then, their community or their constituency or their fan base or whatever turns against them. Hey, that is for their fan base to decide. And maybe some of y'all know where I'm going with this, but, the issues that the baby has been having lately with the stuff that he said about HIV and AIDS and stuff. I'm not going to lie. I heard the comments. I didn't think they were that big a deal. Once again, I'm 45 years old. I talked to some younger people. They said that it was a big deal. They didn't like what he said at all. So guess what? A lot of that is his fan base. He has to adhere to his fan base. They're turned off. Ergo, his money is hurt. I still would not call that cancel culture. I would call that comeuppance. He knows who listens to him, and he's very well aware of what woke young people are feeling these days. He's on the internet. Like I said, he's a young person himself. So he should have been thinking a little bit before he said the stuff that he said. That is what it is. That ain't cancel culture. That's comeuppance. Whenever you're loose with the lips, you might pay a price for that. Lord knows we all have. Myself included. Anyway, moving on. Also brings into question how powerful these tech companies are. How powerful are they? Extremely powerful. If you did not know, now you know they run everything. I told somebody a little while ago, Twitter runs the world. And I said old people like myself and people even a little older than me are going to have to get hip to that. Twitter runs the world. What happens? A political figure or somebody who had a nice job on ESPN Sports or something like that gets on Twitter. They say something racist. They say something misogynist. They say something insensitive towards a certain group. Minutes later, they don't have a job. Welcome to 2021. Twitter runs the world. These social media outlets run everything. So you get on there spouting off, it will come back and you will lose your job. Happens all the time. A lot of time you'll even see on Black Twitter, what do they say? Get them, Twitter. Get them. And they get them. You know, you look back in an hour, people have lost their job. They got crowds of people around their houses and stuff. All of that good stuff. Social media has changed the game. So people got to get hip to that. Claiming First Amendment violation, you can only accuse the government of that, and none of these are government entities. So First Amendment violation, yeah, you can only charge the government with that. None of these are ran by the government. All of these are ran by private people. So they don't have to ensure your First Amendment right. And, you know, as a caveat to all of that, I think that conservatives want to get rid of social media because it's not friendly towards their policies or their views. I talked on here about how I